Welcome to the Premier League preview show with me, Russ Vernon. Today we're previewing some of the matches that we've got coming up this weekend. As you can see on the screen there, we've got Arsenal against Wolves, Brentford against Luton, Burnley against Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest v Everton, Newcastle Manchester United on Saturday. Then on Sunday we've got Bournemouth against Aston Villa, Chelsea against Brighton, Liverpool against Fulham, West Ham against Crystal Palace, which is live on the TC Hub, and Man City against Spurs is also live on the TC Hub. And just to let people know, for the first time ever, we're on the TC Hub, and it's a first for the TC Hub as well. We've never done this before. We are doing a Sublime Sunday, where we'll start on air at 1:50 in the afternoon for the early kick-off between West Ham United and Crystal Palace, where myself will be on commentary for that one. And then, as soon as we get team news in around about 3:30 on Sunday afternoon, we'll be crossing to Paul James, who will give us the team news for Man City against Spurs, the headline team news. Then around about 4:25, we'll be switching over on the same stream to Paul James as he brings you commentary on Manchester City against Spurs this Sunday for you. So Sublime Sunday here on the Commentary Hub, Storm FM, Focus on Football, JB Sports, and Commentary Hub 2 for Premier League action. West Ham versus Crystal Palace and Manchester City versus Spurs. We may be splitting the frequencies, but keep an eye on our Twitter feed at Commentary Live 1. And Focus on Football's Twitter feed as well, Focus Football 7, if I remember correctly, is where you can find that one. And we'll keep you up to date with if we are splitting the frequencies for Sunday's big matches in the Premier League. So then, without further ado, let me just bring up the Premier League table from last weekend, and we can see here the table of how things are standing going into the weekend's action, which, let's just say, we've got a very good week of action. This is how the table stands. Everton still with that minus 10-point deduction that they got for breaching Premier League's P&S, profit and sustainability. News come out on Friday that Everton have appealed that decision. We'll let you know the result of the outcome once we hear it here on the Commentary Hub, JB Sports, Storm FM, Commentary Hub 2, and Focus on Football over on Twitter at Commentary Live 1, and we'll repost it on the other platforms on Facebook as well to let people know the result of that 10-point deduction penalty appeal that Everton have appealed against. So this is the table as it goes into it. Also top of the tree from a point of Manchester City and 2 from Liverpool and Aston Villa. Spurs are in 6th, 3 points behind second place Manchester City, 4 behind Arsenal. Man United in 6th, Newcastle in 7th, Brighton in 8th, West Ham in 9th, Chelsea in 10th, Brentford in 11th, Wolves in 12th, Crystal Palace in 13th, Fulham in 14th, Forest in 15th, Bournemouth in 16th, Luton in 17th, and your bottom 3 is Sheffield United, Everton and Burnley. That is the Premier League table ahead of the weekend's matches. So without any further ado, let me bring up to you and start off our previews, which I'm going to start off with top of the table Arsenal. They're taking on a Wolves side who have been on some bad end of Premier League VAR decisions and some officiating decisions as well, which has angered Gary O'Neill, their manager, and he's very disappointed with that game against Fulham last week. With, I think, he said two of the Fulham penalties, which they scored in their 3-2 win over Wolves last Monday evening. Well, this is the head-to-head stats going into the Arsenal game, and then I'll give you my prediction for it, the game afterwards. So we'll look at the overall head-to-head stats at the moment. It's 62 wins for Arsenal, 28 draws and 32 wins for Wolves. In the Premier League, it's 12 wins for Arsenal, 3 draws and 3 wins for Wolves. Form guide, Arsenal is a little bit better than Wolves. 3 wins, a loss and a draw. Wolves, 2 defeats, 2 losses, 2 wins and a draw. Biggest win for Arsenal so far this season, 5-0 against Sheffield United at the Emirates. And 2-1 for Wolves at Molineux against Manchester City. For me in this one, I think it's going to be a very good match. I think Arsenal may just edge it, but I think it's going to be a tie match, because if you look at the table again, guys, there's a fetch up the table again for you here on the preview shows, just to let people know where we've gone, coming across the bottom there. Wolves, even though they're down in 12th, are picking up a bit of momentum now, trying to find a few wins. Yes, they lost last time out, but 4 wins from 13 so far. Could potentially have had 5 if some of the decisions have gone their way in the early matches against Manchester United, like a Nana punch Kalajnic, which didn't get spotted by VAR. They did, and they said it was just the collisions, and they didn't give those, which is a load of nonsense in my opinion. But if you look at that and look at the situation regarding that as well, I think Arsenal may be too strong for Wolves, and I think that Arsenal will come out on top in this game. I think it's going to be a tight one, and I think it's going to be 2-1 to Arsenal. I think Arsenal win it 2-1. I think it's going to be tight. There's going to be goals in it, but I don't think it's going to be a very one-sided game as people may think there. Excuse me. Let's move on to our next game that we're going to be looking at. Before we remind you what's coming up on the channel on the commentary hub this week. So the next game we're going to be looking at in the chat on the channel is a game which is kicking off at 8 o'clock on Saturday evening, and it's a good one on Saturday evening. It's Newcastle United, who are doing fairly well so far this season. Under Eddie Howe, were robbed in midweek in the Champions League, taking on Man United side, who threw a 3-1 lead away against Galatasaray in the Champions League to draw 3-3, and then coming into it on the back of a good result in the Premier League, though, beating Everton by 3 goals, which is what you would expect. So if you look at the overall stats, Newcastle 91 wins, 41 draws, 45 wins overall in terms of all competitions. In the Premier League, Newcastle have got a win, 16 draws, Man United with 32 wins there. Form guide, Newcastle with 3 wins, a draw and a defeat. Man United, 4 wins and a defeat. Biggest win for Newcastle, 8-0 away at Sheffield United at Bramall Lane, while Man United was a 3-0 win at Goodison Park last week. And Garnacho's goal last week, guys, what I will tell you is, if you have not seen that goal from Garnacho last week at Everton, what I suggest you do is sit down if you've got 5 minutes before the weekend matches and just look at that goal. Then look at Wayne Rooney's goal against Man United. Man United against Man City, should I say. Watch those 2 goals. See which one you think's better. But then, search Trevor Sinclair v Barnsley v Barnsley in the FA Cup when it was a QPR. And you'll be able to see that goal. Because Garnacho's goal over Wayne Rooney's goal for me is the better one. But the Sinclair goal QPR against Barnsley in the FA Cup is better than those two that I've just mentioned. Better than the Rooney one and better than the Garnacho one. But Garnacho's is better than Wayne Rooney's. Because Rooney's came off his shin. Garnacho's was a sublime finish. But Newcastle Man United, I think it's going to be a tough game for Man United away at St James's Park. A lot of teams have found it tough to go to St James's Park this season. And for me, Newcastle's home form and the crowd behind them at St James's Park, I think will just lift them over the line to get another victory on the board. But I think it's going to be a tough ask for Eric Ten Hag's side if they are to get anything out of that game. But for me, I think it's going to be a very tough one if we are to get if Man United to get anything out of that one. And I think Newcastle will edge it. And I will say 2-0 Newcastle overall in that game for me. Next, we're going to look at a game which has got two of the last season's promoted sides battling it out for relegation. One at the foot of the table, one in 18th. Is a Turf Moor, which is Burnley against Sheffield United. And what I will say is this game is one that you probably don't want to miss, and probably a game that Sheffield United fans will probably relish going to, especially when you look at that form guide for Burnley. 5 straight defeats for Burnley in the form guide. Sheffield United lost, draw, win, loss. So in the last 3 they've won, drawn and lost, and then 2 players that were both back-to-back defeats. Head-to-head in the Premier League, Sheffield United is edging it 2 wins to 1 with a draw as well. Overall wins, Burnley 45, Sheffield United 52, 32 draws. I think Burnley, and I know Paul will say this when he watches it back, and probably JB as well, the defence is not good enough. Concede too many goals. And yes, I know a lot of people don't like him. JB to name one. James Trafford has been their number 1 goalkeeper this season and he's made some mistakes. So for me, Muric should come back in for Burnley. That's what I would do if I was Vincent Kompany. I don't think he will. And I know JB and Paul will be happy when they say that. But I think Burnley may struggle in this one, and I think they'll lose. Sorry, Paul and JB, if you're listening. But I think you're going to lose by 3-0, Sheffield United. Yes, Sheffield United are down there, and they're down there for a reason. We are bottom of the table for a reason. You can't keep balls out to the back of the net. You can't keep the goals out. Whereas Sheffield United, yes, they all conceding some goals, but also in some other matches, they've been able to defend properly and efficiently and not concede as many goals or as many chances. Or they may be conceding many chances, giving up too many chances, but they're not conceding too many goals. So for me, 3-0 Sheffield United, because Burnley's defence is a load of piss poor. It's a load of garbage. Right. Let's move on then to our next game. We've got 2 games before we do a recap of what's coming up this weekend. Then we're going to the final 5. So we're getting through these fairly quickly today. Really good job so far. Brentford against Luton is our next port of call. And Brentford against Luton, never met in the Premier League, these 2 sides. Luton's not been in the Premier League since back in 1992 was their last time they were in the Premier League until this season. And after the relegation side, promotion sides from last season, they're doing the best at the moment. They're probably the most consistent side at the moment, picking up some good wins there. So if we look at this one, we've got Brentford with 28 wins, 15 draws, 36 wins for Luton. That's overall no meetings in the Premier League. Form guide for Brentford is back-to-back defeats, but then 3 straight wins. For Luton, it's a win-loss, draw, win-draw. So, Luton fans, if you're looking at your form guide, you've got a draw, win, draw, lost, win. So, could it be another win? Or could it be another draw? Or could it be a defeat? Brentford's biggest win was 3-0 away at Fulham, Craven Cottage. Luton's biggest win was away 2-1 at Everton at Goodison Park. For me, I think Luton will probably just lose this one. Everton's coming up next, that's why I mentioned Everton. Luton's biggest win of the season is against Everton. That's why I mentioned Everton there. I think that win against Everton catalysed how Roberto wants to play for Luton and how he wants to push them up the table if he can get the right balance. So for me, Luton could cause a few problems for Brentford here, but for me, I'm going to say Brentford to edge it 2-1, but I think it'll be tight in this game. Next up, game at the City Ground then. Nottingham Forest against Everton. And this one is a very good game to watch, I think. Then both teams will try and get the win. Both teams need the win for different purposes and different reasons. Everton's is to try and climb out of that bottom three and march up the table. Forest is to try and move a bit further away from that relegation zone and ease the pressure a bit, which is currently on manager Steve Cooper. Overall, head-to-head is 47 wins for Forest, 28 draws and 55 wins for Everton. The Premier League is 4 wins for Forest, 2 draws and 6 wins for Everton. Form guide, loss, win, loss, draw for Forest. For Everton is a loss, win, draw, win, loss. So after you've lost, you've always won the next game, Everton fans. So maybe this could be an omen. You could win. Maybe you could win tomorrow against Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest's biggest win, though, in the Premier League is a 2-0 win over Aston Villa City Ground, while Everton's is a 3-0 win at home to Bournemouth, which took place at Goodison Park. For me, in this one, I can see this game being a really good match. I can see it being a very good display from Forest defensively. Want to react to how badly they played against Brighton last week. Everton need to react to how they've been playing recently as well, especially how they need a reaction more than Forest. But the pressure will be on Forest with them being the home side to get the win, in my opinion. And do I think Forest are going to get the win? No. Do I think Everton's going to get the win? No. I think it's going to be a draw. I'm going to sit on the fence on this one. I'm going to say Desmond 2-2 is the score good for me. There. Now we're going to take a quick break and we're going to remind you what's coming up on the channel this weekend. On Sunday from 10 to 2 in the afternoon, 1:50, we've got West Ham United versus Crystal Palace with myself, for 2 p.m. And then straight after that, on the same stream on the Sublime Sunday, here on the Commentary Hub JB Sports, Focus on Football, Commentary Hub 2, and Storm FM, we've got Manchester City versus Spurs with Paul James providing the commentary for that one. That one is going to be one you do not want to miss this Sunday. This is the Premier League preview show, on the Commentary Hub, Focus on Football, JB Sports, Commentary Hub 2, and Storm FM. But unfortunately, due to technical reasons, Storm FM is not able to bring you this week's preview show again. Let's just tell you let's go and preview some more matches in the Premier League, and then we'll recap the table for you at the end of how this game goes on. And going into the weekend again, just to remind you of those tables. Let's go to the London Stadium next. That's a 2 o'clock kickoff on Sunday. And this live on the commentary with myself, Russ Vernon, for that one. And we've got West Ham United against Crystal Palace. And West Ham have won 25 games in all competitions. Draws has been 23. Palace have won 18. 9 wins for West Ham in the Premier League. 8 for Crystal Palace with 7 draws. West Ham's form is 2 back-to-back wins, which came after 3 straight defeats. For Crystal Palace's back-to-back defeats which came after a win, which was followed up, which came after back-to-back defeats. So it's been a big mixed bag for Crystal Palace in recent weeks. West Ham 3-1 winners against Chelsea and London Stadium was their biggest win of the season, with Crystal Palace's biggest win of the season coming to Turf Moor against Burnley. And I think this game will be a good one. It's going to be very, very tight. And I think that West Ham may edge it with being the home crowd. However, with West Ham playing in Europe yesterday, that may have taken, on Thursday, should have said, that may have taken its toll on West Ham. So I'm going to sit on the fence and go for a 1-1 draw in this one. I think Palace may score first. West Ham try to nick it back. Palace try and get another one. Can't do so. West Ham try and get another one. They can't do so. And the spoils are shared. 1-1 is my prediction there. Next up is a mouth-watering clash. And we'll have Paul James on commentary for this one. It's Manchester City against Tottenham. And what a game we've got at the Etihad coming up. City with 66 wins in overall competitions, 36 draws, and 66 wins for Spurs, so wins have been split equally. 17 wins for City in the Premier League, with 28 for Spurs, draws 7. The form guide for City is back-to-back draws and 3 straight wins. This is all league form, by the way, the form guide. And for Tottenham is 3 straight defeats after 2 back-to-back wins. Biggest win for City is a 6-1 home win against Bournemouth, which took place at the Etihad, while the Spurs against Burnley, it was Spurs who beat Burnley 5-2 at Turf Moor, which was their biggest win. I think this one's going to be another good test of Ange Postecoglou's team's mentality and character, because in the last few weeks have not really performed that great to a really good high standard. And for me, City have not been performing great either. I think it's going to be a tough match for Spurs to get out of it. City have performed well, better than what Spurs have done. I've not said they've not performed good, and that's because they've been knocked off the table, but that's because of the Arsenal winning their draw last time out. Their draw last time out for City, should have said, was getting by the first time. So for me, I think City will get the win in this one. And I think it's going to be 4 straight defeats for Ange Postecoglou's side. I'm going to go 4, Man City 3, Tottenham 0. Now let's move on to a game which is to kick off at 2 o'clock at Anfield. And it's Liverpool against Fulham. And Liverpool have won 42 games overall. Fulham with 13-18 draws. In the Premier League head-to-head, it's 19 wins for Liverpool, 7 wins for Fulham, and 6 draws in there. And biggest win for Liverpool, 3-0 at Anfield against Aston Villa. As for Fulham, it's their 3-1 win over Sheffield United at Craven Cottage. Fulham are doing fairly well this season. Been impressed with how Marco Silva's great side playing, and how they're coping without Alexander Mitrovic. I think that's really a good key part to see how well they've been able to cope without him. Because I know myself and maybe potential other people who watch this was not sure how Fulham would do under Marco Silva without their main man in Alexander Mitrovic, who went to the Saudi League. But for me, I think Liverpool will have too much quality on this, despite playing in Europe on Thursday evening. And Liverpool will win by 3-0. Sorry to Barry, who, if you watch this one. Next up is Bournemouth against Arsenal. And this is going to be another Bournemouth against Aston Villa, should I say. And this is going to be a very good game. I think if you look at this, 5 wins apiece of overall with 1 draw. 4 wins for Bournemouth, 2 wins for Villa in the Premier League. No draws in the Premier League. So, and Bournemouth, back-to-back wins, a loss, a win, a loss. For Villa, back-to-back wins, a loss, back-to-back wins. So for me, 3-1 for Bournemouth at Sheffield United, and 6-1 to Villa against Brighton at Villa Park. biggest wins of the season. For me, I think Bournemouth, even though they're at home, will not have enough quality to beat the opponents of the team that they're going to be playing. And for me, with Bournemouth, I think they're going to struggle this season. I think we'll be down near the bottom again. I know they were down there early on in the season. I think they're going to be struggling again this time around. And I think Bournemouth will lose 4-0. I think Aston Villa's firepower will be too much for them in the end. Now to the final game of the weekend, and it's Chelsea against Brighton, kick-off at 2 o'clock on Sunday from Stamford Bridge. Overall, it's 13 wins, 5 draws and 3 wins. In the Premier League, it's 6 wins for Chelsea, 4 draws and 2 wins for Brighton. The form guide is a loss, draw, 1 loss, draw for Chelsea. As for Brighton, it's a win, 3 straight draws and then a loss. 4-1 Chelsea win against Burnley is their biggest this season. Brighton's is a 4-1 against Luton. I think Brighton, despite playing well in Europe and qualifying for the next round in Europe, in their first season in Europe for quite a while, I must have to say that I think the performances from Brighton this season, yes, I know they're still in Europe, yes, I know Europe, the Europe factors in there, which could tire them out a bit, but I don't think they've been the same level as they have been in recent weeks. So for me, I think Brighton will lose by 2-1 against Chelsea in this game of the weekend. I think Chelsea may just edge it, and I think that's because of Brighton's distractions by getting through and having a lot of distractions in Europe as well. Let's just remind you what we've got coming up before we remind you of the recap the table before we finish. We're number 14 this week in the Premier League. On Saturday, we've got Arsenal against Wolves, Brentford against Luton, Burnley, Sheffield United, Nottingham Forest, Everton, and Newcastle, Manchester United. On Sunday, it's Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Brighton, Liverpool, Fulham. 2 games on the Sublime Sunday here on the commentary of JB Sports, focus on football, Storm FM, and commentary of 2. West Ham United against Crystal Palace over at 2 p.m. From 1:50 we'll on air for that. And it's on the same stream from 4:25 the build-up, from about 4:20 the build-up for Manchester City against Spurs. And all the commentary on that one as well. So make sure you tune in for our Sublime Sunday, our first ever Sublime Sunday here on the commentary. But let's just recap the table again for you just before we do leave you tonight. This is how the table looks going into the weekend's matches. All Luton could pull themselves away from the club zone this weekend. Will Burnley climb above Everton and Sheffield United with a win over the Blades this weekend, and Luton lose, which will put them a couple of points behind Luton. Will also remaining top of the table after this weekend, or will City overcome them? Can Tottenham stop City in their tracks to climb back above Arsenal? You have to wait and find out. But for myself, Russ, and the rest of the team here on the commentary hub, is a very thank you to you all for watching. I'll see you again soon. So, on behalf of the team here and the commentary hub, thank you very much for listening. And also for the Focus on Football team as well, and JB Sports. But from all the team here, it's a very goodbye to you all. Thank you very much for listening again. And we'll see you again Monday to review the matches from this weekend and preview the upcoming matches as well for Tuesday night and Wednesday night and Thursday, which we have a midweek round of fixtures this midweek in the Premier League. You don't want to miss a jam-packed show on Monday. Thank you very much for listening, everybody, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.